Singing is just beautiful today. Wonderful singing. We'll read the text again. And what more shall I say? Time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David and Samuel, and of the prophets who through faith conquered kingdoms, enforced justice, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, were made strong out of weakness, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection. Some were tortured, refusing to accept release so that they might rise again to a better life. Others suffered mocking and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were killed with the sword. They went about in skins of sheep and goats, destitute, afflicted, mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy. Wandered about in deserts and mountains, and in dens and caves of the earth. All of these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, since God had provided something better for us, that apart from us, they should not be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. We'll offer the invitation song now. An amazing text, isn't it? It's a powerful text. It is the pinnacle, the climax of the book of Hebrews. It is the point he's been driving to all this time. This text. This text is the keep on keeping on text, if you will. We've been working through the book of Hebrews. I have been on my Sunday morning appointments, and today is the last in the series. I think it'll be the last that I will give, because it is the point of the book. He has come to his conclusion, if you will, and there's a lot that goes into that, and we're going to do the best we can to capture this. The book of Hebrews, I believe, was written from Jerusalem, or rather written from Rome to Jerusalem. It was written to the church in Jerusalem, specifically certain folks in the church, I think. It was written by, I think, Luke, somebody who knew the Greek language very well, was a very scholarly person, also knew the Old Testament. About the time of the death of Paul, the thrust of the book of Hebrews is this: your city is about to be destroyed, so you need to not stop clinging on to the elements of that old covenant and turn to Christ and accept Christ, and don't give up on Christ. That's the thrust of the book. If you look at the book of Acts, you'll find that the church in Jerusalem was made up of a great many priests, some believers who belonged to the party of the Pharisees, and how many thousands there are among the Jews of those who have believed. They are all zealous for the law. These are 3 quotes from the book of Acts that describe what the church in Jerusalem looked like. I don't know what I thought before I started this study. What was it, made up of a bunch of, people from, Greece? No, made up of people from Jerusalem. Made up of people in Jerusalem that believed the law and were zealous for the law. That's the makeup of these people. And the problem is as time had gone by, they had sort of slid back into putting their faith in the sacrifices, putting their confidence in the old covenant. All of those problems, and Christ was beginning to grow dim for them. And so throughout the book, he warns them that you got to be careful. You could fall from grace. There's several warnings about that. So he goes about making arguments to prove to them that Christ is better, that in every respect what you have in Christ is the the perfecter of what was founded in those things. Because, folks, all those things you're holding on to so dear are about to be destroyed. They're going to go away and never, ever be reconstituted. So you've got to put your confidence in Christ. The message is relevant to you and I today because if we're not careful, we begin to cling to this world. And we put our confidence in this world and all the things of this world, and we lose sight of Christ. So every warning in the book of Hebrews is relevant to us. Remember, Christ is the point of it all. Christ is better than anything else. He is the reason. That's how we can read this book with that in mind, and I have found it very helpful for me. The book, as we have studied through it, has been in 5 sections. We've worked through the first 4 sections of that. Each section has 3, if you will, elements. The first is a thesis that is offered that explains generally what this section is about, and it's usually at the beginning of that section, but not always. There is a whole body of proof where he goes through and makes his proof from the Old Testament, and then there's a warning that's issued with each one. We are in the last one now. This last one basically is saying that the faith of the fathers is perfected in Christ. Therefore, you must remain faithful to Christ. If the fathers are important to you, if the old covenant is important to you, if the tabernacle, if the sacrifices are important to you, then you most perfectly complete those things by following Christ. The thesis of this section is right there that we read this morning. Therefore, let us also lay aside every weight. This is sort of his conclusion in this section, that since the faith of the fathers is perfected in us, it compels us to keep on keeping on, if you will. Okay, so let's think a little bit about this text. It begins there, we'll think about chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, well, as preachers quite often say, therefore. Well, what is it therefore? Why is the word therefore, therefore? What, therefore what? Well, it's a conclusion to what he just did in chapter 11. In chapter 11, he went through the great heroes of faith. And quite often people will speak from chapter 11. It's a wonderful, wonderful chapter. And if you're reading through Hebrews, you're going through, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, proofs, Old Testament sacrifices, boom. It almost breaks your leg when you get to chapter 11, verse 1. It's just like a whole different book. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for. The word faith's hardly been used. And all of a sudden, boom, faith, chapter 11, verse 1. Well, what he's going to do, it's a body of proof. He's going to go through chapter 11 and demonstrate that those people that you look to, these fathers of the Old Covenant, the fathers of the Old Testament, they did what they did by faith. That's what he says there. They did what they did. They were commended by their faith. And he goes through them one at a time. Abraham, Isaac, Noah, Barak, all of them. He works through them one at a time, talking about what they did by faith. So much to be said about that. You can't really accomplish greatness in any subject if you don't believe in what you're doing. You have to believe in what you're doing. But God knows this. He has established throughout all the ages, following him to be based on faith, not on function, so to speak. There are functions involved, all kinds of things we must do, disciplines and practices, absolutely. But it's always been based on faith, what you believe in. If you don't believe in what you're doing, you're not going to be successful. It's just that simple. If you're a salesman and you're selling some product, you got to believe in that product. You have to find a way to believe in that product. If you're a software developer for the state, you have to, on some level, believe in what you're doing, that there's value in it, right? If you're a private detective, you got to believe in what you're doing, that in some way it accomplishes a good purpose. If you own a printing company, you got to believe in what you're doing. God understands the human condition better than we think. You wonder, why did God seek to be found by faith? Why didn't he just show himself to us? Because he knows the human condition depends on faith. And in a broken world, it's very important, absolutely critical, that he be found by faith. So the author establishes that. He spent all of chapter 11 showing that all of these people were approved by faith. They made it by faith, but they did not receive what was promised. They believed in something, but they never realized it. They never realized the object of their faith. So think of all of these people in Hebrews chapter 11, this whole congregation of people that he's just described, how they based their life, their blood and their treasure on something they believed in. And we heard the text of what they gave because of what they believed in and what it meant to them. And they died not having received the object of their faith. They died in faith, believing it would be realized someday. Now the Hebrew author sort of drops the microphone on us and says that apart from us, they should not be made perfect or complete. All of those folks, their faith, all the things they did are in vain, a waste of time, if it's not for Brother Phil and Wes and Sandy doing what we do today. Apart from us here today, their faith is incomplete. We are. This day is the object of their faith. What they believed in is realized in what we're doing today. They died not having received it. And if we don't live up to it, their faith is still not realized. That's the point of this text. Therefore, we've got stuff to do because their faith is not realized. Old Testament loving, Old Covenant loving person in Jerusalem, if you want to honor the Old Covenant, be faithful to Christ. That's the answer to every question. Well, be faithful to Christ. That's the answer. That's the therefore that he's established. That without what's going on with us today, Abraham was a waste of time. Noah put the ark together in vain. The world should have just been destroyed without what we're doing today. Now, do you understand the microscope of history that is focused on you and I in this text? How critical it is. That's why this is such a powerful text. Okay, with that in mind, let's start thinking about the things he says. First, he says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. He refers to chapter 11 as this great cloud, group, congregation of witnesses. Now he's calling to mind, and he will use throughout this text, language from the Greek games. The Olympics have been going on. I haven't watched them, but maybe some of you have, and these Olympics have been around for thousands of years. The writer of Hebrew is using the language of the games. Several words in here are very unique and specific words that the author uses that are specific to the games. That's not the only time these words are used. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, a spectacle to the world. Spectacle is a word specific to the Greek games Paul used. 1 Corinthians 9, several verses there use several words specific to the Greek games. That you so run that you may obtain this prize. Those words are very specific to the Greek games. 1 Corinthians 15 and 32, I fought with beasts at Ephesus. The word fought is a very specific word describing the boxing matches that they had in the Greek games. Galatians 2 in verse 2, had not run in vain or without purpose. The word run is a very specific word, treko, word used to describe the Greek games. Galatians 5 and 7, you were running well. Same word, same concept. Philippians 3:13, I press on toward the goal or the finish line, a very specific word that is specific to the Greek games. You wouldn't use that word in the first century unless you were talking about the Greek games. Colossians 2 and 18, let no one disqualify you. Disqualify is a word specific to one of the sports they had. It was used if you, like today, some of the folks I understand have used drugs they shouldn't use, some kinds of whatever, enhancement drugs that they're not supposed to use, and they are therefore disqualified. This is the word. that they would have used in the first century to describe that. 2 Timothy 4 verse 7, I have finished the race. The Apostle Paul describes his life as if it were a Greek game. You get the point. All of these quotes are in letters written to Greek churches from Paul, giving a comparison to Christianity to the sport of the day, the Greek games. This is why I conclude if Paul lived today, he would be a football fan. I have no doubts. You cannot read his writings and conclude otherwise. He loved the Greek games. He used the imagery of the Greek games all the time to explain to us what it's like running the Christian race, living the Christian life. Now, here's the thing. Chapter 11 of Hebrews is written to Hebrew people about Hebrew heroes. And all of a sudden, he's going to use the Greek games metaphor to make a point to them. Now, that would be like showing up and, I don't know, trying to explain farming terminology to a Wall Street banker. It's just like, what? Why would you use Greek game analogy to explain something and think about for a moment the Hebrew letter. Whoever this letter was intended for were people that knew the book. They knew the old book because he's throwing out quotes from the Old Testament just like they were bullets. Boom, 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 Psalms and Isaiah and boom, boom, boom. He's quoting the Old Testament and going through concepts that the most studied student of the Old Testament might struggle with. We've looked at some of those complicated concepts. You cannot read the book of Hebrews and draw any other conclusion that the book was written to people who very much knew the Old Covenant. And now all of a sudden he's going to use an analogy of the Greek games. Let me offer a theory to you. When Stephen stood up in Acts 6 and preached to the Hellenists in the synagogues in Jerusalem, they killed him. It was very sad. They stoned him. I think Stephen was successful. I believe a lot of those thousands of Jews in Jerusalem were Hellenists that were converted. Greek-speaking priests. Remember the priests, the people that headed up the priests in these days were the Sadducees, and they were very political in their thinking, and they would have appointed priests from a lot of different backgrounds. I think what you've got in Jerusalem are a lot of Greek-speaking Jews who know both the heroes of faith, Hebrews 11, the Hebrew heroes, but they also know the Greek games because that's the culture they came from. They came from there to move to Jerusalem. When people came to the Passover from Turkey and from Greece and from Rome and other places, they came there with that Greek background. They would come there worshiping those Greek or Hellenist synagogues, and there would be people there that they could communicate with. There were a lot of synagogues around Jerusalem, and a lot of them were Greek-speaking synagogues. So that's just a theory I offer to you about the book of Hebrews. Otherwise, this piece of text doesn't make a lot of sense because everything else in the book is focused towards Hebrew people. And now we're going to use this analogy for the Greek games. So, having said that, that is the picture he's painting. Here's the picture. You and I are on the field of play. That's where we are in this analogy. We're out there in that green area. We're playing the sport. Up in the stands are filled with audience. That's what he's describing. We are surrounded by a huge audience, and they're watching us play. You've seen this on TV. If you've watched a sporting event, you know what it looks like. A stadium filled with people. You and I are on the field of play. That's where we are in this analogy. All of these people up in the stands know that the object of their faith is us. That's what they've put their confidence in. That's what they've put their hope in. And if we don't survive, if we don't prevail, that was the word I was trying to think of. If we don't prevail, Abraham wasted his time. Noah built the ark in vain, and Jephthah sacrificed his daughter for nothing. If we don't prevail. You see, this audience that's watching this game is filled with these heroes of faith. They're in the stands and they're rooting for you. They're rooting for us so that we might prevail the day. That's the analogy that the author is setting up here for us. Chapter 11, written to the Hebrew heroes. Chapter 12, now let's apply it to the Greek games. Whoever got this letter had to understand both. That's kind of what I was trying to say. All right. So with that in mind, let's just play this game. Here we are. We're playing, well, I like football. We'll just make it football. Matt's the quarterback. Okay? I'm probably like a lineman. You don't have to be very smart to be a lineman. So, well, I don't know. You got to be smart to play any of it nowadays. But we're out there on the field, and the crowd is watching us. Now the author is going to tell us some things we need to do to be successful, to prevail, to complete the game that they started, so to speak. So he's going to use, where's Paul at? Paul? This is a garden sermon. Lettuce. We have our first head of lettuce. The Hebrew author loves lettuce. Let us, it's twice in this text. If you go through the book of Hebrews, he'll say that a lot. Let us do this, let us do that. So it's a way I have of thinking about it, like a garden sermon. Well, there's two heads of lettuce in this sermon. Number one, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. Okay, for a long time I read this text and thought it was talking about the weights that you would tie to your ankles. The Greeks would do that. They did do that. They would tie weights to their ankles when they were practicing, when they were training, and then when they would compete, they'd take those weights off so they could run faster, and they did do that. However, there's very specific language associated with doing that, and that's not the language he uses here. It's not at all the language. The language he uses here has to do with losing weight, body weight. That's, yeah, here we go. We stopped preaching and started meddling. Well, that is what he's talking about. We have to lay aside the weight. He says, you know what this weight, and think about an athlete. An athlete has to stay trim and fit. If you're going to compete, all these people up in the crowd, that's what they're saying. Hey, they're making one too many trips by the Burger King there, buddy. You need to be trim and fit. That's the analogy. How it applies is this: the sin which clings so closely. Just like that fat on the belly that won't go away. That's the analogy. You know how hard it is to lose that Bananas Foster that I had last night, which was really good, by the way. You know how hard it is to lose that. It clings to us so closely. That's the analogy he's describing. And so what he's describing for us is a life of discipline. You've got to come to this game with discipline so you can prevail. So I said, that's so hard. Some of these sins are so difficult. Yeah, they are. They cling just like fat. They just won't go away. Listen carefully. In the crowd, you'll hear them cheering. Wait, I hear one. Sounds like an old man. Oh, there he is. What's wrong with his eyes? He didn't have any eyes. And why is he sitting right next to that column that holds the stadium up? He's holding on to it like it's so familiar to him. What's he saying? Live life with a small footprint. Get rid of those toxic relationships. Who are you, sir? My name is Samson. I was one of those heroes of faith that were listed. And in the end, I did destroy many of God's enemies. But along the way, I had a problem. I had a sin that clung to me so destructively. I had a thing for Philistine women, and it was my undoing. And you see that I don't have eyes. Well, There's a gal named Delilah that saw to that. And so you down there on the field, get rid of those toxic relationships that are affecting your walk, that are preventing you from playing the game the way you ought to play it. Get rid of them. They'll destroy you. Walk away from them. You've got to live life with a small footprint. Get rid of the things that you don't absolutely need, because this game is for life and death. Because my name is Samson, and everything I did and stood for and died for is depending on you prevailing this day. I've never heard cheerleaders give that chant, but that's what this is, Samson. So the message to you and I is, get rid of the junk in the trunk, the stuff we don't need. Get rid of it. It's slowing you down. Yeah, it clings really hard. Ask Samson, he'll tell you. There's another fella. Wait a minute, no, he's over here. He's sitting there, he's old. Boy, he's old. Wow. He's got 3 friends sitting next to him. They seem to be really good friends. What's your name, sir? What is it you have to say to our team? Well, my name is Daniel. I was kidnapped when I was about Silas's age and taken to a foreign country. Well, how did you make it, Daniel? Well, many things with the Lord's help, but I'll tell you a couple of things I did. Is I stayed true to the discipline of the faith that God gave me. The rules and regulations that God gave, I stayed very true to them. What do you mean, Daniel? Well, when they brought me food, I wouldn't eat it. And I told them, no, this is the diet I'm supposed to eat, and I would like to eat this. Well, no, you can't eat that. You're not going to do well. Well, no, you give it to me and check after a month, and you'll see I'm doing just fine. And I was faithful to the practice of my religion. I observed it very carefully. And I prayed 3 times a day. And when they came and told me, don't do that, we're going to throw you in the lion's den, I got down on my knees and faced Jerusalem and I prayed. My name is Daniel, and what I did to get rid of the weight was I focused on obeying the commandments, the things that were before me, and I found them comforting. I found them providing for me a life of structure and discipline so that I could focus on the day and get rid of the things that are slowing me down. So, what we do, go to church. Oh, but I can't. You think it was easy for Daniel? Listen to him up there in the crowd. He's telling you that his life becomes a waste of time if we do not prevail. Therefore, go to church, say your prayers, read your Bible, sing songs, all the discipline of Christianity. Observe it. It's not just stuff we do. These are things that cause us to have a disciplined life, a life that is a life without a lot of extra weight, a life specific to serving God. There's a whole stadium filled with witnesses watching, hoping that you'll do that. The second head of lettuce. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So the first thing he says is you got to think of it this way. You got to train. You got to get rid of all the stuff, small footprint, toxic relationships, all those things. Follow the discipline of Christianity, all those things. You got to do those things. Even when you don't want to do them, you got to. That was the first head of lettuce. Second head of lettuce. Now we have to run with endurance the race that is set before us. A couple of observations about this phrase. You and I each have a race that is set before us. Now that infers, and I think it's true, that each of us have a different path before us, a different race within the framework of Christianity, a race set before us. So Tripp has his own unique race to run, his own unique challenges, his own unique endurance he'll need. And David and Tommy and Edie, all of us have a race set before us, a unique path. Matter of fact, the terms used here, the word run there is trekko. Think of the word Star Trek, and it is the root of our word track, as in a racetrack. That's the word here. It's path is one of the meanings of one of the quite often used meanings for that. It's a path. You and I have a path. And that path is filled with things that we're not going to be able to overcome and prevail against unless we endure. So here's the problem, though. You and I, instead of looking at our path and saying, how do I endure this path? We go to the Father in prayer and say, Lord, could you just give me a different path, please? I don't like this one. There's too much endurance required here. Can I just please have a different path? No, you can't. This is the path that God has laid before you. It is the path that you must run. It is uniquely your path, and you will not be able to prevail and survive it unless you endure. And it is a race, and that race word means, he used a word there that's very specific to a public event. Don't forget the crowd, because they're up there watching us endure. And so when you really struggle and you say, I just don't think I can endure, you got to. I have a photograph of a fellow here, Marine Staff Sergeant Jose Luis Sanchez. He lives down in San Antonio. He was in, I forgot the name of the town in Iraq. And Gary, you'll know what it was. He was the lead guy on the, you know how they go out with like a group of 12 to 20 guys and go out and do their reconnaissance. And there's always got to be a guy in the front. Well, he was the guy in the front, whatever they call that. Yeah. He stepped on an improvised explosive device, and it blew his leg off. And as he laid there, his fellow soldiers came up to him. He was crying and hurt. And of course, the other soldiers form the ring, point their guns out, you know, who's watching us, what snipers are about to try to kill us, all that stuff. They went through all that. And at that moment, as he lay there near death, he decided, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. I'm going to do that. And that race in Boston began next to an exploded IED. That's where it started. Because he used his arms and he pulled himself onto the gurney, refusing help. Made it back to Bethesda, where they treated him, gave him I don't know if you can see in the photograph, he's got a prosthetic leg, and he began to train. And, you know, at night when he'd wake up and the foot that was not there hurt like you can't believe, the mind playing tricks on you. And he couldn't sleep at night because of the pain. The next morning he'd get up and he would train. He didn't take the day off. And he trained and he worked. And he actually is a, what do you call it, motivational speaker now. He goes and gives speeches. And he got one word, endure. You have to have purpose. You have to fight through all the problems. You have to endure to get through it. I gave that example just to help understand what endurance means. Endurance isn't a patch of flowers. It means that it's very difficult and it takes a lot of guts to get through it. That's what it means. It means sometimes you're going to sit in that chair and grit your teeth all day because it's the only thing you can do. That's what it means. We're not talking about wine and roses here. We're talking about very difficult things. And that's what the author of this text is wanting us to understand. Let us do very difficult things because we're in a stadium of people watching this race. Wait a minute. Oh, I hear somebody up in the crowd trying to talk to us. Oh, there he is. Boy, that guy's got a big family. There's a bunch of them up there sitting together. He's an old man. He's favoring his leg. He's got some kind of cane or something he's walking with. That old boy sitting next to him wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Oh, no, that's a Hawaiian coat. Who is this fella? His name is Jacob. He's sitting with his very large family, watching. Jacob, how did you endure? Well, when my father-in-law cheated me, and I had to work an additional 7 years to gain the hand of the woman I loved so much, I focused on the goal, how much I loved her. And those 7 years went by like they were just nothing. Well, Jacob, what else? How else did you endure? You lived a long life. There must have been a lot of endurance. Well, yeah, I came back. I thought my brother was going to kill me, but I arranged my family in such a way, and I walked right up to him. And you know what? It worked out. But then, as time went on, my wife, she's sitting here with us, Rachel, gave birth to her second child, and I loved her so much. She died. I buried her there in Bethlehem. I don't know. I didn't know if I would make it. But the next day came, and the next day, and I focused on what it was I had to do and the goal. I remembered her, and I endured. Well, Jacob, that was really tough. He said, no, that wasn't the worst of it. The oldest boy I had with her, his name was Joseph. I was devastated when the other brothers came and told me he had been killed by a wild animal. I didn't know what I would do. I was never the same after that. And can you imagine how I felt when I found out years later that, no, his brothers sold him as a slave. But ultimately, we were reunited. But there was 50, 60 years there of living in misery every day. Having lost some of the people I loved the most, not knowing why I'm even doing this. But every day I put one foot in front of another, and I endured. That's what it takes to play this game, brothers and sisters. That's what it takes. You have to find a way to endure, and my fear is it's going to get worse here in the place and time we live. So sit in your chair and grit your teeth and get over yourself, toughen it up a little bit, and endure. Because Jacob's up there knowing that his life is a waste of time. All the pain that he endured is a waste if we don't prevail. Oh, I hear somebody else. Oh, he almost sounds like he's got a great singing voice. Oh, there he is. Wow. That wife of his is good looking. And he's wearing the robes of a king. There's a lot of people sitting next to him. King David. David says, you know, I had to endure, but a lot of the things I endured were my own doing. It's because I did not lay aside the sin that so easily clung to me. I committed adultery with Bathsheba. I had her husband murdered. And because of that, you see that girl down the way over there in our row, fourth seat down? Her brother raped her. And it was my fault. And you see the man sitting next to her. He's the one that did it. And his other brother down the way murdered him for it. And that one, Absalom, he formed an army and kicked me out of my kingdom. I crossed over the Kidron Brook, going east out of Jerusalem, on the run, fearing for my life. He took all my wives, ridiculed me before the public, thought I was going to die. I lost everything. One of my generals killed him. Every day after that event with Bathsheba brought a new way of me having to find how to endure. And so David says to us, do yourself a favor. Don't create your own problems. Get rid of those sins that so easily cling to us. Because all those seeds you sow, you're going to reap every one of them. I did. But I wrote songs. Many of them spoke of the Messiah that was to come. And that is where I put my hope. Just like Jacob did, my great-great-great-great-grandfather, just like Daniel did, just like Samson did, just like Jephthah and Barak and Moses and Noah and all of them that are in the stadium watching us. They're holding their breath, watching and waiting to see, will you and I prevail? Will we lay aside the things that slow us down and run with endurance? So here is the formula the author gives to us. First, here's your goal. Here's the finish line. Looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. I don't have time to go through it in great detail, but there is a brilliant thing going on here in terms of a literary device. Founder and perfecter of our faith is speaking to something he just spent the last 4 or 5 chapters doing, and that is establishing the old covenant as copies and shadows of the true, and what Christ came to do was bring the heavenly, the true, the real thing. The founder, the one who brought us all the copies and shadows, and the perfecter, the one that makes it complete, the heavenly, the true. It's a beautiful thing that goes on there in the book of Hebrews. And that's the essence of what he's saying. Christ is all in all. Christ is everything. He founded it, he completed it, he perfected it. He's the goal. And this is found in some of these other texts that relate to athletics. Pressing to the mark, all those concepts put Christ as the goal. Because Christ is the reason for all of it. These folks in this stadium, the thing that they put their faith in, that they now will be incomplete if we are not successful, if we do not prevail. What they put their faith in is that someday a Messiah would come and there would be people that would join our family, and that the ranks of this family would grow so that the nation of Abraham would be enormous. That's why we did it. That's why Jacob did it. That's why Samson did it. That's why David did it. That's why they all went through what they went through, so that you and I could be part of that great family of God. And the way we'll do it is the way they did it. Focus on the objective. Focus on the goal. So he says of Jesus, this is what Jesus did. We're just going to do what Jesus did, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame. Now what we learn from this is that Jesus Christ, in order to endure what he endured, having laid aside all the things that might hold him back, had a state of mind. He had a perspective that guided his every day. And that perspective was this: my pain is actually my pleasure. The things that hurt me today, I'm going to count them as pleasure. All the things that Jesus endured, the cross, the mocking, the beatings, all of it, he looked at it and said, I'm going to put that in the joy account. That's what I'm going to do. In my mind, and a lot of this has to do with your way of thinking. In my mind, when it hurts, when it's hard, when the teeth are gritted, I'm going to call that joy. I'm going to call that pleasure. Because I have a purpose, Jesus is saying. And that is that someday, somewhere in a desert, there'll be a person who says, I want to be a follower of Christ, and he's baptized in a backhoe bucket. I love that photograph. I just love that photograph. There's so many things said in that photograph. It doesn't matter when, where, and it doesn't take 1 million people to become a follower of Christ. This is the joy that was set before Christ. This is why he endured the cross. You and I are why he endured the cross. You see, that most expensive suite up there in the stands, that's the one where our Lord is watching. Having endured, having gritted his teeth, having laid aside every weight. You and I are the culmination of the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of millions that have gone on before us. Surely you can make it through whatever tomorrow brings your way. Christ, the joy that was set before him was that you in faith would be born again and become one of his. Take your place in the family of God. We have water here to make that possible if you have faith. If you believe, and if you're willing to believe in it, we can assist you by being baptized and to become a part of the family of God. If you've struggled along the way, and many have, just ask Samson, just ask David, just ask Jacob. You know, the team sometimes has to huddle, regroup ourselves, pray for each other. When I was a little kid, that's what I thought was going on in football when they would huddle. I was, are they praying? I figured that out before too long, but kind of. Well, we can huddle. We can pray with you, and we can pray for you. If there's any way that we can assist you, I hope this sermon has been as inspiring to you as it was to me to prepare. I love the book of Hebrews, and to me, this is the climax of the book. This is what it's about. If we can help you in any way, we're going to stand and sing this song. Come forward, have a seat on the front. If you would, come while we sing the song that's been selected.